Greetings and salutations. My name is Deanrea Sykes. I will be attending the illustrious Howard University, majoring in African American history and double minoring in Chinese and pre-law. That's what you'd hope I'd say. But for most of mainstream America, what they assume I'd say was a little bit like this. Hey cuz, what's good with you, fam? My name is Deanrea, or you can call me Ray Ray. I do a little music here and there, and I hoop. Now you may be thinking to yourself, I never think such a dastardly thing, but we all hold stereotypes. Today, I need to talk to you about the plight of African Americans. Specifically, the plight of African Americans in 2019. Now my talk will be all over the place, but bear with me. I'll be giving you guys some of my personal examples with a few digressions to point out some related and important matters. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve, but if needs be, it is an ideal for which I'm prepared to die. This quote by the late great Nelson Mandela is unmistakably long, but there is no quote that more closely defines my life passion for ending racism and hate in this world more. Contrary to popular belief, we, as Americans in 2019, don't live in a completely free and equal society. We endure a modern-day Jim Crow redesigned as mass incarceration. We quite inherently subjugate women of all colors to lower, unequal pay while working the same jobs as men. I could continue listing the hateful attitudes surrounding American deportation, the LGBTQ community, Muslims, and immigrants, but this talk would never be completed. For me personally, I remember being 12 years old and the only black kid at an art summer camp, and a girl coming up to me saying, just go home because black kids are only smart enough to play sports. I also never forget politely asking someone not to cut in front of another customer in my retail job, which resulted in me being called a stupid black monkey. I will become a civil rights attorney and use my experiences of racism to transform that hurt and despair into obtaining justice for people of color in a courtroom. Lowering these statistics of black incarceration and giving them a second chance at life, I firmly believe that I will make an impact. More than litigation, without a doubt, I plan to be there for those after the court battle is over to counsel them and make sure that they have all the resources they need to be headed on the right path. In 1972, fewer than 350,000 people were incarcerated nationwide, compared with the more than 2 million people today. Even as recently as the 1970s, some well-respected criminologists believed that the prison system would soon fade away. This stat is shocking for most Americans today. But why? I like to argue that crime rates and incarceration rates move independently of one another. So regardless of if black people are committing crimes, brown and black people are being locked up at astounding rates. Thurgood Marshall, a Howard University graduate, used his mind and passion to fight mass incarceration and white supremacy. And years after his death, he is still remembered as a hero by many. Now, I am no Thurgood Marshall, but I do believe that when God has called you to do something, it doesn't matter our limitations, but it is his purpose that will sustain us. Now, y'all, I am a proud child of North Tulsa. North Tulsa. Y'all know North Tulsa. Flowing in poverty, an 11-year life expectancy gap compared to whites, and even an astounding number of homicides as stated by the media. Now, you would firmly believe this if you've never been to North Tulsa, but you lived your life through the media. But today, I'd like to give you a different perspective. North Tulsa, 1921, Greenwood. An all-black community of over 600 businesses, numerous schools, churches, movie theaters, restaurants, etc. Booker T. Washington, the great educator and scholar, impressed with the affluence of this community, gave it the nickname Black Wall Street. This community is Tulsa's best-kept secret to date. A community flourishing in opulence, destroyed in one night. 35 square blocks, decimated. 600 businesses, obliterated. And over 300 people killed, all due to one central issue: hate. Raise your hand if you're from Tulsa. Pretty much everybody. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Booker T. Washington High School here in Tulsa. Cool. If I told you that a school with a population of 65% minority students, 35% of those being black, is ranked by USA Today as the #1 public high school in the state of Oklahoma, would you believe me? A state permeated with racism, hate, and ignorance is home to a modern-day civil rights dream. A country that once classified people who look like me as 3/5 a person now sends those same descendants to colleges all over the world. According to Beverly Tatum's book, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria?, our public schools are more segregated than they were in 1980, as measured by the percentage of black students who are attending schools that are 90 to 100% non-white, with the highest rates of school segregation being in the Northeast. So, why are our schools so segregated today? This could be due to redlining in major cities that use coding systems that classify black neighborhoods as hazardous or unsafe, while they classify white neighborhoods as expected to remain stable. Or this plight could be due to affirmative action, which was intended to push diversity for elite schools, which only resulted in the federal government taking away race as a determining factor in the admissions process. Regardless of what the true answer is, we, as Americans in 2019, must find better, more effective ways to educate a browning America. Now for my next question. Who in here knows what an HBCU is? Not that many people. HBCU stands for Historically Black College and/or University. They were founded after slavery to educate the newly freed slaves. Being barred from attending predominantly white universities, these institutions were born out of necessity. Today, with over 100 HBCUs today, they populate over 1 million students, majority of them being black. HBCUs serve as safe havens for black students finding their self-identity in a less accepting white America. But what about the black kids attending predominantly white universities? There will never be an SAE. There will never be an SAE. You can hang him by a tree, but he will never sign with me. There will never be an SAE. You fill in the blank. This chant by the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity at the University of Oklahoma made national news after a video of several members were caught on film reciting this in 2015. OU isn't alone, though. Also in 2015, the University of Missouri found its campus in racial unrest after the assassination of Michael Brown in 2014. So, with racial tension at its height in America, I ask you, how can we move into a more accepting and inclusive way of living? I'd like to give you 3 key points on how to best answer this issue. First, racial reconciliation. If you take a second look at your church demographics, your friend circles, or even your workspace, you'll see how homogenous our environments are. We hardly interact with anyone who looks different than us, and at times, that's perfectly understandable. But I encourage you to take that leap of faith to talk to someone you might not ever interact with otherwise. Second, recognize your privilege. And no matter how upset you are with your life, we all carry some privilege. Even I, as a black kid growing up without a father and in poverty, I still possess some privileges. I'm a straight, Christian, able-bodied male, which comes with many advantages that I wouldn't have otherwise. Recognizing these privileges allows me to have these difficult conversations and understand the perspectives of all individuals. And lastly, this is probably the biggest key point I could ever give you guys. It's so big, like, so big. Are you ready? You ready? Be kind. That's right. A very elementary statement, but many adults today still cannot comprehend such a simple topic. And no, just don't be kind to your family, friends, or people who you look like, but be kind to even your worst enemies. Once you do that, you'll find the power to live your life without saying to yourself, why don't I like this person that I've never met before? Now for a small backstory. I remember touring the University of Oklahoma in April of my junior year. It was my first time truly getting a feel for the campus, and I absolutely fell in love. I don't remember much from that day, but I do remember one thing very clearly. My godmother and I walked up to an admissions counselor who was there to answer any questions the future students might have about the application process. Eager to attend, I proceeded to introduce myself and tell her my stats and extracurriculars. Once I told her my ACT score, though, she stopped me and said, "You will not get in." I had never heard something like this from an adult, so I said, "Excuse me?" She said, "Yeah, our average ACT score is a 27, and it's rising every year. I don't think you'd make the cut, but you can try." Now, finding a tutoring school I could see myself at and being told I wouldn't reach that goal crushed me. I remember almost going into tears because I believed that I had let my family down. The one thing I learned from that day is to never let someone's stereotype of who you might be determine your future. Not only was I admitted to the University of Oklahoma, but the University of Tulsa, Howard University, Temple University, and 22 other colleges. I say all that to say this. People may look down upon you for your gender, sexual orientation, or even your ethnicity. The plight of yourself will not be made by what other people say about you, but it will be made by what you say about you. So with that, I ask once again, what is the plight of African Americans in 2019? Thank you.